Hi, I'm Stuart. I'm pastor at the church and also part of the leadership team, and we're going to be sharing over the next couple of weeks our reflections on last year, 2020, and looking into this year, 2021, and what we're expecting and anticipating God doing as God leads us into this year ahead. At the beginning of last year, I was planning a sabbatical break and was working towards that, and a couple of people are going to reference that in a minute. And it didn't take long before I realised that all my plans, but also the plans we'd carefully put in place in church life, were going to need to be torn up and started again. And that happens from time to time, but not quite in this way. None of us had anticipated what was to come. And through this whole year, we've seen God at work. And I was so grateful to all of those who made it possible for us, Judith and I, to be off at the beginning of last year. But also massively grateful for all of those who stepped up and responded in amazing ways to keep the church community being all that it is, and to keep the church working and functioning in brilliant ways through this time. It's been a challenging season, as you'll hear in these coming videos, both personally and also corporately, but it's one in which we've seen God at work, and we're so grateful for all that God's done. So we pray that you're blessed this morning, and look forward to next week, where we're going to be sharing more about our hopes and expectations of what God's leading us into for this coming year.
Good morning, I'm Judith. I've been part of the leadership team for a few years now. I count it as a privilege to be able to prayerfully discuss with other members of the team how best to serve you all in the church on matters that arise regarding the bigger overall church pastoral concerns, look at how to serve the church's vision, look at how we can move forward in growing in our relationship with God, and look at how we can serve him in the church and in our own individual lives. As you may know, Stuart took some time out as a sabbatical from the end of February 2020, and I also took some time away from church to spend some of this time with him. We were grateful to have a refreshing and relaxing break in Devon just prior to the first coronavirus lockdown in March. It was a significant time for me as I meditated on the first few verses of Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd. I have all that I need. He lets me rest in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. I certainly came back feeling refreshed, but as the virus took hold and I returned to work as a lead nurse in a general practice, my role suddenly changed in new ways, such new ways, ones I could never have imagined. It was quite surreal, weird, challenging and very hard work. I was exhausted trying to cope with the day-to-day changes the government expected us to make and implement immediately. Consequently, the sabbatical I'd expected, one of rest, turned into one of craziness at work and tiredness at home. I know this virus has affected everyone's life. You've all had to adapt to living your lives in new and challenging ways. It's been so hard for all of us. It's been scary, it's been challenging, it's been sad, it's been frustrating, and it's been very hard work. And because of this, we can so easily focus on our problems. We can become self-reliant, wondering how we're going to solve these problems. We can get stuck in a rut of how we live our lives each day. We can try and find things to make us feel better in the short term. And we can easily be distracted by worldly problems, especially when watching the news regularly. God challenged me on this towards the end of 2020. And as I look into 2021, my prayer for myself and for you, my precious church family.
Hello, for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Ade Rabiu. I have attended TWCF Christian Fellowship with my husband Bowden and our 4 sons for 12 years this January. I love my church family. I have been encouraged and challenged to grow in my walk with God and my giftings. The dynamics of the church has changed over the years, and we don't like change, but sometimes change is a good thing. In summer 2020, I was encouraged and challenged to join the leadership team here at TWCF Christian Fellowship, a position I am honored to take up, and with God's help will do my very best to serve the church family. I cannot do this on my own strength. I am relying 100% on the Holy Spirit. I will listen and obey his voice. How many of you know that the listening part is the easy part? The doing part is the hard part, and the doing part is still a work in progress for me. Looking back at 2020, there are so many events that took place that could have been seen as setbacks and disappointments. When I remember 2020, I choose to remember it through the positives that happened in my personal life and in the life of the church. Focusing on the church, at the beginning of the first lockdown, Stuart was on a well-earned sabbatical leave with his lovely wife, Judith. The church could have easily fallen apart at that point, but I would always remember the way everyone that Stuart had left in charge stepped up beyond what they had expected they would be doing in Stuart's absence. The whole lockdown happening when Stuart wasn't around reinforced to me the fact that Christ is the head of the church, not man. And we are the body, and as long as he is the head, the center, the church will survive trials and tribulations that come our way. I take my hat off to the technical team stepping up to do Zoom services. People called up to preach and share, and they rose to the occasion. That I will always remember 2024.
Hi everyone, Matt here. I'm a member of the leadership team of the church as well as on the church council. So 2020, interesting year. So as you know, Stuart and Judith went on sabbatical back in March, and after one Sunday with everything working normally, lockdown began, and we had to come up with a whole new approach to how we would do church, which obviously we're still doing now. And it was a tremendous team effort from the leadership team, church council, the Sunday morning team, the worship, the preaching team, the PA team, the kids team, for how we came up with how we did church in this virtual way. Not without its challenges, but it's been a huge amount of work, but we've got ourselves into a really great steady pattern for doing that now. One of the other big developments in 2020, as a church, we've been thinking about how we get spiritual input in and help into how we deal with some of the challenges we face as a church. And one of the things that we've seen other churches do is have some external kind of spiritual guidance from other people, from other churches who are similar to us. And many of you will know Tim and Helen Roberts, who led our church a weekend away back in 2019. So they've helped us over the last year, first during lockdown, as we were trying to, and while Stuart was away on sabbatical, how we got things up and running and what they were finding was working well in their church, and we were able to adopt that. But also just with some external kind of spiritual guidance of people who know us but aren't part of us, and are able to pray into some of the issues that we're facing, and to just help us as a leadership team. And so that has been a really vital and useful part of our leadership meetings over the last year.
Hi everyone. One area of the church where we've seen real growth over the last year has been our life group programme. Groups started as usual in people's homes back at the start of 2020. But when the lockdown began in the spring, our groups became critically important to ensuring that people could still connect with one another and meet with one another, albeit remotely. Most of our group leaders transitioned to meet on Zoom, and the majority of our groups also moved to a weekly format to ensure that people were seeing people from church regularly, that they weren't isolated, and that they were still able to connect with one another. It also meant that those who hadn't been able to attend groups before, perhaps due to childcare or other commitments, or because they lived too far away, could actually attend a group for the first time. This meant that demand for our groups actually went up this year rather than going down, and lots of our groups are now actually oversubscribed, and we started 2 new groups in September, which is fantastic, and we're looking forward to starting more groups soon. We've seen people grow spiritually through our groups over the last year, and also relationally. And it's such a blessing to hear that so many of our groups have become like small families, challenging and encouraging one another as well as supporting each other practically through this difficult time. It's meant that people have been able to drop things on doorsteps when people have been isolating, provide practical support and prayer support to one another as well during this time period. And so many groups have seen amazing answers to prayer. It's such a privilege to hear all of these. A huge thank you to our life group leaders for everything that they've done over the last year and for making our life group programme such a success. We are really excited to see what more God has to do through our life group programme in the coming year. And if you're not yet part of a life group, we'd really encourage you to join one.
Greetings, Gareth Tuckwell here. Mary and I joined TWCF in 1986, along with our children. Despite some tough challenges in this pandemic era, it has been great to know and to witness God's presence. He is our rock within our changing world and the one who is never socially distanced. As a church, we found new ways of staying in touch with many.
Hi everyone, I'm Ian Bentley and I'm part of the leadership team at TWCF and also on the site leadership team here at Southside with my wife Melissa and with Andy and Joida. Melissa and I joined the church back in 2010, and from the moment we walked through the doors at Central, we've felt this was home for us. We've loved being part of this wonderful church family and have grown so much here. We got married at TWCF and have then had our wonderful two boys, John, who's 4, and Elijah, who is just about to turn 1. Then we really felt God calling us to be part of the Southside when it launched, and we were excited to be asked to be on the leadership team of Southside, and shortly after I joined the church leadership team also. The current government guidance is for us to stay home, so I'm here at Southside today, which is like a second home for us. But I must say it doesn't feel like home without the rest of our family at Southside. It's been really encouraging recently that we've been able to host watching the live stream here, but my heart really longs for the day when we can come in and hug each other and worship together in this place again. Anyone who knows me knows I love a challenge, and this I think is the word that best sums up 2020 for me. The last year has been full of challenges for us personally, with a newborn and a small boy with lots of energy during lockdowns, but we've had such amazing support from our church family and through our life group particularly. But it's also been full of challenges for us as a leadership team, having to adapt and learn new skills as we try and figure out how church works in these very different times and trying to discern what God's plan is through all this. We've had to learn new skills as well. This time last year, I didn't have a clue about how to run a live stream, but we've gone from running Zoom calls from our bedrooms and living rooms at the beginning of the year to running Zoom and YouTube live streams from TWCF Central, and now watching the live stream here at South. And hopefully soon we'll be watching in Central as well and starting to get back to some kind of normality. Through all these challenges, it's been so encouraging as a leadership team to know that we have the support of our church family, supporting us both practically and through prayer. It's also been encouraging to see how the church has responded to the challenging times. We've had a great group of people who have stepped up to run the technology behind the scenes of the live stream. Our kids and youth teams have had a real challenge in rethinking how to engage our young people in church, both online and socially distanced in person. But they've persisted and made some great things happen. And we've seen the church doing some fantastic outreach recently with our own food bank running, an online alpha course, Christmas cards given out, Christmas carols sung, and who could forget even an inflatable nativity driven around on the top of Lawrence's car. And we've also seen the support of the church through financial provision. It's been a really challenging time for many people financially, but it's great to see so many people continuing to do their regular giving to support the work of the church.